Welcome to the Honest Dog Breeder Podcast with me, your host, Julie Swan, where each week we dive in to discuss all things dog breeding so you can build a breeding business you love, producing dogs that fulfill their owners' dreams. I believe you can have an honest dog breeding program that also pays the bills. So throw those pods in your ears while you're cleaning kennels. I'd love to join you. What's your biggest pain point right now? Is it cleaning puppy pens and adult pens? I swear, there is always more poop to clean. Is it social media? Are you thinking to yourself, yes, I have been meaning to tackle that? Maybe it's your newsletter. You've done the hard work of creating it. You have the sign-up forms on your website. You're collecting email addresses, but maybe you have been struggling to get those emails out. Now, hold that pain point in your mind for a second. What if you outsourced that very thing and it was done? Would that feel good? When outsourcing is done right, this is the feeling you get. But to be honest, that's not usually what happens. In accordance with our Why Breeders Are Bleeding Money theme, we're going to discuss why this beautiful idea of outsourcing is often the very thing that takes a profitable business and capsizes it, not like a little bit of water in the boat, but like a storm and waves that flip the boat. Here is what I usually see when breeders outsource. It usually starts in a moment where the breeder thinks to themselves, if I just didn't need to do this, or if this was just taken care of, then I would have, and fill in the blank. More free time, more income, less stress, more puppies sold. Again, I want to reiterate, it looks good on paper, but what really happens? Often the breeder is in a state of overwhelm when they are looking to outsource. They usually are in over their head. They know they have added this thing to their to-do list, but it isn't getting done. Now, when you notice this is a problem, that's a great thing because our pain points, frustrations, and annoyances are exactly the things we should look to fix first. However, here's the rub. There are no magic pills. You can't simply hire someone and it's magically done. That simply doesn't work. Most of the time, the breeder is not in a position to immediately hire someone. And I don't mean from a financial perspective, but from a readiness perspective. The system to hire someone usually isn't in place. Let me give you a social media example. Say you have struggled to post on social media. You've randomly posted 1 to 2 times per week in the last month or so. You posted sort of whatever you felt like posting, and you're seeing some traffic to your website, but you've only sold a dog or 2 from it. You know this has potential, but you are struggling to consistently get it done. You think, I will hire someone. If I pay them, they'll get it done. Now, if you hired them right away, 2 things will happen. They'll be constantly bugging you, asking you questions that you don't have the answers to, or you'll be frustrated because they'll want pictures or information or other guidance that you simply don't have. And the very thing that was supposed to be saving you time is adding more to your list of things. Or they'll try a bunch of things and you'll feel like it's very off-brand because it doesn't sound like you. It isn't what you actually say to buyers, and the whole thing feels wrong. This is the most common thing that happens with outsourcing with breeders when it doesn't work. They don't have a plan to share, there is not great guidance, and because you have to guide the person, you are still losing time. I remember I once hired a girl to come out and help me clean, back when I had dogs and farm animals and all kinds of things all at once. She would come out for 8 hours 1 day a week. And I would pretty much do all the work because I didn't explain the plan nor the standard very well. And so she sort of just walked behind me and talked to me while I did the work, occasionally offering me a hand when I asked her to help. It was not ideal. Was she the wrong fit for the job? Yes, she was. She wasn't in the physical condition for the job, but more so, it was more my failure as I didn't outline the job well, and so she didn't know what to do. I further made it worse when I didn't correct her with all the little things that I was expecting and she wasn't doing. It wasn't great. If someone you've hired isn't working out, there really are just 2 reasons. Either they're not the right fit or you didn't give them what they needed to succeed. In coaching breeders, I occasionally get to work with their employees and to understand things better. Most of them are incredible and want to help. They want to see the business succeed. Ironically, many of the breeders I work with are frustrated with these same employees. The frustration is rarely because of the employee, but most of the time it's because of the mismatch between the breeder's expectations and the process and understanding they've shared with their employees. For example, they want the kennels cleaned a certain way, but they have never shared this expectation. And they want the walls wiped down daily and the bedding changed, yet because they've never expressed this standard to their employee, the employee doesn't do these things. The employee believes they are doing things well enough, but the breeder is dissatisfied, often thinking the employee is lazy or doesn't care. Rarely is this the case, but the gap between what is communicated and what is expected, that's where the problem lives. Another thing I hear a lot from breeders is how their employees simply don't care. This is nuanced. Let's be honest. Rarely will an employee ever be as invested in the success of the business as the business owner. Just doesn't make sense. It's very uncommon. Employees are generally there to make money, and they will value their time. So they will be looking to do the least amount of required work to achieve the minimum passable standard. That's human nature. This is why it is so important to be explicit about the standard, because that minimum standard you set will generally be what you get. Sure, you'll occasionally find someone who has high standards for themselves, but I wouldn't expect this to be normal. For example, if you say the whelping boxes need to be cleaned as needed, that's not a great standard. But if you say all the poop needs to be washed off the walls of the puppy pen daily, that's a standard. I pressure wash adult kennels once every week with daily poop scraping and rinsing of the concrete to remove urine or any other gross stuff the dogs have left. This is a manageable standard and understood. The pressure washing is done by my stepson now, and he knows that he needs to do the block walls, the panels, the concrete, and the walkway, and all the walls and floors of the interior every time he pressure washes. He has very good work ethic and will get everything off the panels in and out. This was fairly natural for him, but we had to set the standard that everything needs to be washed every week like this. So, when should you hire help? Have you ever needed a loan but couldn't qualify? I've been there. When I first bought the ranch, we bought it as an owner carry, as our credit wasn't great, and the home didn't qualify for a VA loan. So we were kind of stuck with a crappy interest rate. It was expensive. I remember at one point in time, I had only $46,000 left on my mortgage, but I had a loan payment of over $1,500 per month. It was killing me, especially when I was broke. It was the irony of the situation. If I could refinance the loan to a lower rate, I could save a ton of money and it would have allowed me to pay off the other debt and move along faster. But let's be honest, the banks didn't like that. However, the point I'm trying to make was that it was really hard to get financing when I needed financing. But now it's easy to get financing because I don't need it. They're unlikely to give you a 0% balance transfer on your credit card if it's pretty much maxed out. So anyways, I give you this example to relate to hiring an employee. I know, weird. Just like you won't want to scramble to get financing when you're broke, you don't want to get an employee when you're struggling and in the middle of crisis management. It's a bad idea to get an employee when you're stressed and overwhelmed. This is because you won't have the bandwidth to hire them properly or set up the systems and get it flowing right. The caveat is if you already have the system in place and you just need to hand it over to someone so they can take care of the tasks. The best time to hire an employee is when you're getting to the place where you realize your time is a little overworked and you want to get some of that time back. Now, before you hire the employee, you'll want to write down all the steps you take and what you do to make sure you have it all outlined properly. Make a list of the tasks, how you do it, and what the standard of done is. I've made a cheat sheet of all the things you got to have ready for an employee before you hire them. You can get it in the show notes. honestdogbreeder.com/110. But what about the costs of hiring? Another important factor when thinking about hiring someone is the cost of hiring them. How much is reasonable? Great question. For me, I look at my income and expenses with my breeding program in relation to how many puppies it will cost per year. While this helps me keep things in perspective, it isn't always helpful without a bigger picture of how many puppies you plan to keep and how many you can afford to spend. What's often better is to think, what percentage of my revenue will this take? For example, if someone costs $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 per year. If your puppies are $2,000 each, that's the equivalent of 6 puppies per year. But those 6 puppies looks very different if you sell only 20 puppies per year or if you sell 80 puppies per year. At 20 puppies per year, that's a major expense. But at 80 puppies per year, it's likely a great deal. I recommend taking the cost of the employee, multiplying it out so you have a full year's costs, then running that against your gross revenue, the total amount of money you expect to take in for the year. If the cost lands somewhere around 15 to 20% of your revenue, you're generally in the right ballpark. Just make sure you're still taking home a healthy chunk of that total revenue, or at least reinvesting it wisely into your business. If you aren't sure about these percentages, check out part 1 of this little series and grab the cheat sheet where I break it all down. A good approach is to start small. You don't have to commit to a full-time hire. In fact, most breeders shouldn't start that way. You might hire someone for just a few hours a week. My first virtual assistant who helped me with social media only cost $80 per week. She gave me about 4 to 5 hours of help, and it took a huge load off my plate. You can also consider hiring seasonally. For example, you might bring someone on for the summer or for your busy litter season with a clear end date. This gives you a trial run to see how you like having the help, without feeling bad if you choose not to continue after the initial time frame. And of course, if it works out, you and your helper can always discuss an ongoing arrangement. Another important consideration is your cash flow. Breeding income isn't always steady. If you know you'll need help during the slower months when puppies aren't going home, make sure to plan ahead, set some money aside during busier times so you can cover payroll later without feeling stretched thin. Lastly, and this is kind of a big one, please make sure your business is already running at a profit before you hire someone. Many business owners hire with the hope that the employee will improve revenue. But in dog breeding business, this is usually not the case, at least not directly. The employee likely won't be bringing in sales. What they will do is free up your time so that you can market more or take on additional revenue generating work. If you don't use that freed up time to grow your business, hiring may not add to your bottom line. That said, sometimes what you're really buying is quality of life, and that's valuable too. One thing I've noticed when working with coaching clients is that many hire help before they have real direction, not just in the task, but in their business as a whole. They often aren't sure what size program they want, what income they need or want, or even what a successful program looks like for them. Getting clarity on those things will move you forward much faster than hiring an employee. So if you're stuck, if you're not sure where to go next, what to focus on, or you feel like you have a million things to do and no idea where to start, I'd love to help. I offer one-on-one coaching for breeders, and we can work together to create clarity and peace of mind that you're on the right path. The truth is, there is no one right way to run a breeding program. There are many ways, and the right option is the one that gives you the breeding program and the life you want. The two have to work together. And that's exactly how I approach it. You can take the next step towards applying for coaching by going to honestdogbreeder.com/coaching. I'd love to work with you. So what do you think? What's your next step? Are you going to download the cheat sheet and plan out what it would look like to hire some part-time help? Are you going to go back and evaluate your hired help and give them more clarity? Or did you realize that maybe it's you who needs more clarity first? I'd love to know. Leave me a comment and tell me what you think. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Honest Dog Breeder podcast with me, your host, Julie Swan. I'm so glad we got to spend this time together. Thank you again, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode, the third part, where we discuss marketing money leaks and how you can fix them in your marketing processes.